Greetings, weary traveller, and welcome to a horror-themed episode 68 of Access. Our monster and zombie-infested lineup includes Rob taking on hordes of the undead in a Dawn of the Dead-style apocalypse, Mila Jovovich doing a similar thing in much tighter trousers in Resident Evil Retribution, and there's the latest news in PlayStation Briefing. But first, we're having our worst day on the farm ever in our Game of the Week, Aliens Colonial Marines.
Well, I don't know about that, but what I can tell you is that Aliens Colonial Marines is the most fan-pleasingly accurate recreation of everyone's favourite sci-fi horror-verse ever. Lighting sputters, strobes and spins, just like the movies. Action scenes are anchored by the urgent percussion beats and the terrified wails of about-to-be-dead soldiers, just like the movies. And just like the movies, you'll pick up conveniently placed red herrings on your motion sensor.
Rob, you've picked up a promotional scarf from the award-winning 2012 PSN game Journey being blown by an electric fan on your motion sensor.
Typical. You know, just to ramp up the tension before xenomorphs start leaping all over the place like excitable spaniel puppies, with acid for blood and more teeth than usual, and 6 feet tall and can crawl along the ceiling. Exactly, so it's a good job you've got gun pockets deeper than a lunar ravine. Filling them is the iconic pulse rifle, which comes complete with digital alarm clock ammo display and makes that noise when you shoot it. The self-aiming smart gun, which churns Xenos into a paste of acidic entrails. The shotgun, handy for close encounters. Plus, most important of all, the iconic motion sensor, which elicits a series of high-frequency bleeps, whose rise in intensity is in direct correlation to the amount of terror-induced sweat congealing in your underwear, and subsequently how close you are to being eaten through the face by a marauding lurker. Or the fact that you're outnumbered and outclawed. Happily, there's plenty of armour dotted around the place for use in times of need, and Aliens Colonial Marines is more than happy for you to jam on multiple hats and jackets to stave off the gouts of acid blood.
Come on, Rob, are you ready yet? Let's do this.
And then there's multiplayer, which finally grants you that wish you've been sitting on since blowing out your birthday candles in 1992 and lets you play as an alien. A slimy, wall-crawling, gob-protruding, man-mauling alien, complete with pounce abilities and, in escape mode, infinite respawns, which makes for an utterly terrifying experience if you're playing as a human. And it's as a piece of wish fulfillment that Aliens Colonial Marines hits the high notes, exploring the mangled ruins of Hadley's Hope and the haunting silence of the Sulaco's Hangar Bay, both untouched after the events of Aliens, is a nerdgasm-inducing treat right up there with what we imagine flirting with Felicia Day at the back of a comic book store would be like. Aliens Colonial Marines is out on February the 12th and comes as highly recommended as...
Stand down, Marines, the war is over and it's time for your PlayStation Briefing. First up, giving us a tiny bit of shelter from all the noise and terror is gorgeous PlayStation Vita exclusive Tearaway, which will be arriving later this year courtesy of the creative minds at Media Molecule. We asked lead designer Rex Crowell about getting the most out of PS Vita with pretty bits of paper.
We've designed it from the ground up as a really Vita-y game. The last thing we want is some kind of checklist of features that we're ticking off. It's just that we couldn't resist putting all our weird ideas into what we could do with them.
Thanks, Rex. We'll have a longer look behind the scenes of Tearaway and Media Molecule next week. Leaving all that loveliness behind, we're back to the grime and gristle world of Dead Space 3 now. The game is not only brilliant, but out this Friday. We asked associate producer Yara Curry what makes Dead Space scary.
There are very specific elements that make a Dead Space game, the atmosphere, the thrills, the fear, the immersion, the horror, the action. All of this makes a Dead Space game, and it's all about the pacing, There's going to be some sections that are really combat driven, very high tension, you're all about survival at that point. Some other moments where it's more about the story and other moments where it's more about horror. In Dead Space 3 you have even more emotion, you have more ways to engage with the game because we furthered it in many ways.
Thank you, Yara, although the reason is because we never want a rotting corpse to be sick in our mouths. That's all for briefing this week. We'll be back with more news next time. Perusing PS3's digital wares now, it's your weekly roundup from On The Store. With most of you assassin types having already wrung every murderous nugget out of Hitman Absolution, you'll be glad to hear a triple whammy of Agent 47 Awesome is now available for download in the Hitman HD collection. A bundle that features spit-shined versions of Hitman 2 Silent Assassin, Hitman Contracts and Hitman Blood Money. This time you can prove how silent and violent you are with the addition of trophies. Plus 47's Bonce looks extra nice in 720p. And finally, for PS Vita owners, is the Escape Plan collection, which not only features the full game in all its touchy, puzzly, monochrome brilliance, but also bundles in all existing DLC. Bargain! The game is stuffed full of violent traps that you'll need to make smart use of PS Vita's touchscreen and rear touchpad to avoid. Download it today. That's all from the store for now. We'll have more downloads for you next week. No celebration of horror on PlayStation would be complete without a bit of Resident Evil, so it's excellent news that Resident Evil Retribution has just made its way to Blu-ray, probably by diving backward through a window and firing a gun in slow motion. Retribution is the 5th film in the zombie popping series, and by this point the plot has gone properly mental, with cloning and viral mutations meaning you can never be sure exactly who's alive, who's dead, and who's about to sprout fetching tentacles from their mouth. None of that's really important though, as the film's more properly about the awesome Milla Jovovich kicking, arm-breaking and headshotting her way through yet another batch of flesh-hungry undeads as genetic badass heroine Alice. The action is as slick and sweetly choreographed as ever, with a secret umbrella testing facility providing perfect copies of New York and Moscow to raze to the ground, and the film is packed with the kind of hardcore resi references that make watching the apocalypse unfold truly entertaining. Resident Evil Retribution is available on Blu-ray and DVD now, and we recommend it like never playing baseball with Milla Jovovich. Having seen all the zombie-killing heroics in Resident Evil Retribution, we were inspired to off some undead ourselves, so went and found some in this abandoned shopping mall in Reading. Well, actors in makeup, but that still sort of counts. After surviving the shambling hordes, we had a chat with organisers Z Events to find out more.
We basically created a tailored experience specifically geared up for the DVD release of Resident Evil Retribution. As soon as they entered the building, the experience started, and it was Resident Evil from the ground up. Right down to the costumes, right down to the branding, zombie characters that directly reflect some of the characters that are in the movie, some of the real big nasty beasties with the big hammers and the axes and the chains and all that sort of stuff. So basically the guys got a movie-like experience where they lived and breathed a version of Retribution, following closely to the film. Everybody has to be tooled up to survive, so we gave them a selection of assault vests, a bottle of water, but more importantly, a shotgun that fired a spread of plastic BBs, but they were very limited in terms of what ammunition they had, so the guys had to think about their targets. Unfortunately, the group had a major problem. Rob was split from the group, and he doesn't know where he's going. Hello? Hello? We've not seen him for a while now. I think we'll call it quits on him, he's a goner.
I'm gonna die. I'm actually gonna die in here.
Thanks to all at Z Events, and remember, Resident Evil Retribution is out on Blu-ray and DVD right now. Before we depart this gruesome episode, there's one final horror-themed bit of access to enjoy. We're honoured to say we've been given a special behind-the-scenes look at a day in the life of Dead Space hero Isaac Clarke.
Good afternoon, Mr. Clarke. I hear you're interested in opening a current account with us? Thank you, Mr. Clark.
There's nothing quite like the crafting hands of a skilled engineer. See you next week.